Welcome back to Arsenal Updates, the channel that keeps you locked in on everything Gunners. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've been rocking with us for a while, you already know what time it is. Let's get into it. 22 years. That's how long Arsenal fans waited. 2 full decades of near misses, of almost moments, of watching rivals lift trophies that should have been theirs. And then on a Tuesday night in May 2026, it finally happened. Not on the pitch at the Emirates, not with a last-minute winner, but through a slip-up at the Vitality Stadium, where Bournemouth held Manchester City. And in that moment, Arsenal were crowned Premier League champions for the first time since the Invincibles era. The scenes were extraordinary. The celebrations across North London, across the world, were unlike anything the club had seen in a generation. Why today? But now the dust is beginning to settle. The confetti is still on the floor, the trophy is still gleaming, and already Arsenal are thinking about what comes next. Because at this club, under Mikel Arteta, standing still has never been an option. And today, we're going to break it all down. The contract extension for Arteta himself, the transfer targets that could redefine Arsenal's attack, the finances that are about to make Arsenal one of the most powerful clubs on the planet. This is the full picture of what Arsenal's next chapter looks like, and it is something special. Let's start with the man at the centre of everything, Mikel Arteta. When Arteta was appointed in December 2019, the reaction was mixed. He was a former Arsenal captain, yes, a man who had served under Pep Guardiola at Manchester City and absorbed some of the greatest tactical knowledge in football, but he had never managed a senior side before. He was untested, unproven, and he was walking into a club that had been in decline for years. What followed was nothing short of a transformation. Arteta rebuilt Arsenal from the ground up, the culture, the mentality, the identity. He brought through young players. He demanded standards. He made the Emirates a fortress again. And in the 2025-26 season, working alongside sporting director Andrea Berta and backed by the Kroenke family, he delivered the one thing every Arsenal supporter had been dreaming of. Now the club is ready to reward him accordingly. Talks over a new contract had been deliberately paused during the final stretch of the title race. The club didn't want any distractions, but now that the trophy is secured, those conversations are set to resume. And the numbers being discussed are staggering. Arteta's current deal is understood to be worth around £10 million per season, with a £5 million bonus for Champions League qualification. But the new contract is expected to go significantly further than that. Sources have suggested his revised salary could push him close to the level of Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid, the man widely regarded as the world's highest-paid manager, on a reported €30 million a year. To put that into context, Pep Guardiola earns a reported £20 million per year at Manchester City. Arteta, his former assistant, is being placed in that bracket now. The second youngest manager ever to win the Premier League, after Jose Mourinho with Chelsea back in 2005, and the first manager since Arsene Wenger in 2004 to do what he has just done. He has matched Kenny Dalglish's extraordinary achievement of winning the top-flight title in his very first senior management job. The numbers being discussed reflect all of that. They reflect what Arteta means to this club and where he is taking it. Crucially, insiders within Arsenal have confirmed that the expectation was always that Arteta would stay, even if Arsenal had finished the season without a trophy. This is not a panic retention. This is a deliberate, considered commitment to the architect of a dynasty. And once the Champions League final against Paris Saint-Germain is done, those talks will happen. Speaking of the Champions League final, Arsenal are in Budapest a week from Saturday, facing PSG for the most prestigious prize in club football. That context matters enormously for everything that follows, because Arsenal are not just rebuilding around a domestic title. They are on the verge of something historic. Now let's talk about the money. Arsenal are on course to generate up to £770 million in revenue this season. Let that number sink in, £770 million. That would shatter the previous Premier League record, set by Manchester City, of £715 million. It would potentially push Arsenal up into third place in the world's richest clubs table, behind only Real Madrid and Barcelona. Last season, Arsenal recorded revenues of £691 million. The jump to this level is extraordinary, and it has been driven by the combination of Premier League success, Champions League participation, and commercial growth. The Kroenkes have been unambiguous in their messaging. In the matchday programme ahead of the Burnley fixture, co-chairman Josh Kroenke wrote directly to the fans, "There will be no standing still when the season ends." That was the promise. Not rest, not consolidation. Forward momentum. And that commitment is being backed by serious financial muscle. Now the summer spend is unlikely to replicate the £250 million Arsenal invested in the previous window. That was a once-in-a-generation outlay that reshaped the squad completely. But funds are in place for at least one marquee signing. The benchmark being referenced internally is the Declan Rice deal. A then British record £105 million in the summer of 2023. That is the scale of investment Arsenal are prepared to make again, and the priority position is clear. Arteta wants a forward. The name that has dominated Arsenal's transfer conversations for weeks is Eli Junior Kroupi, the Bournemouth striker, 19 years old, and in the most extraordinary debut Premier League season by a teenager in the history of the competition, Kroupi has broken the record held by two English legends, Robbie Fowler and Robbie Keane, for the most goals scored by a teenager in a debut top-flight campaign. His 13th goal of the season came against Manchester City, the goal that, in effect, handed Arsenal the title. There is a poetic quality to it that is hard to ignore. A teenager at Bournemouth, a club that was not even in the Premier League a decade ago, scoring the goal that ended Arsenal's 22-year wait. And now that same teenager is being pursued by the club he helped to glory. Kroupi's rise has been meteoric. He joined Moussa Sissoko's agency earlier this year. And given that Sissoko's client list includes Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembele, that is a significant signal of the ambition surrounding Kroupi's career. He has also been scouted by Real Madrid and Chelsea, meaning Arsenal are not alone in their interest. The competition for his signature will be fierce. Bournemouth, for their part, are not in the business of selling their prize asset cheaply. Their valuation of Kroupi is understood to be around £80 million, a significant fee for a 19-year-old, but one that his performances entirely justify. Arsenal see him as a player who can operate on the left of their attack, offering direct, aggressive running and a goal threat from wide positions. But he is also viewed as someone who could challenge Kai Havertz and Victor Gyökeres for the central striker role. That versatility makes him particularly attractive. Then there is Julian Alvarez. The Argentina international has had an interesting career trajectory since leaving Manchester City for Atletico Madrid, a World Cup winner, a proven performer at the highest level across multiple competitions. Arteta has strong interest in bringing Alvarez to the Emirates, though the primary obstacle is Atletico's valuation. Diego Simeone's club has never been known for selling their top players at a discount, and the conversations around Alvarez are still in early stages. The financial gap between what Arsenal would pay and what Atletico would demand is unclear, but the interest is genuine, and Alvarez fits the profile of forward Arsenal are targeting perfectly. The dream signing, according to reports, would be Ivica Kvaratskhelia. The Georgian winger has been one of the most exciting players in Europe since his breakout at Napoli, and his move to PSG brought him to the biggest stage in the continent. But here is the issue. PSG are not expected to entertain any offers for Kvaratskhelia, particularly not in the same window as the Champions League final. That door appears firmly closed. His PSG teammate Bradley Barcola is another name that has been on Arsenal's radar for some time, as is Nico Williams of Athletic Bilbao, a player who has been chased by virtually every major European club following his performances at Euro 2024 and his continued brilliance in Spain. Then there is Anthony Gordon at Newcastle United, a technically gifted, high-energy winger who also interests Bayern Munich. If Arsenal want Gordon, they will need to move decisively and outmaneuver one of European football's biggest institutions. The one name that stands out as potentially available from the current squad is Gabriel Martinelli. The Brazilian winger has been at Arsenal since 2019, and while he's been a significant contributor in recent seasons, the club would reportedly consider offers for him if the right proposal arrived. Martinelli's exit would clear the path for one of the younger, emerging talents to step into a starting role. or for a marquee signing to slot in seamlessly. On the departures side, there are several players whose futures look uncertain. Gabriel Jesus is among the club's highest earners, on a reported £250,000 a week, with just a year remaining on his contract. He has been surplus to requirements for some time and is expected to leave. Christian Norgard, who joined from Brentford with enormous promise, has played just 56 minutes in the Premier League since his arrival. A difficult situation for a player of his calibre, and Ajax are said to be monitoring him closely. The former season also saw Ethan Nwaneri spend the second half of the campaign on loan at Marseille, despite signing a new 5-year contract in August. Borussia Dortmund are among the clubs interested in him, and his long-term future at the Emirates is now in question. Fabio Vieira is another player Arsenal were hoping to offload permanently. The Portuguese midfielder, signed for £34 million back in 2022, spent last season on loan at Hamburg, where he contributed 7 goals and 5 assists and helped the club stay up in their first season back in the Bundesliga. An option to buy was included in the loan agreement, but Hamburg have declined to activate it. The asking price was set at around £19 million, more than the German club are willing to pay. HSV are reportedly hoping to keep Vieira for something closer to £9 million, which falls far short of Arsenal's valuation. Further talks are expected. Vieira himself has indicated he is open to remaining in Germany, telling reporters he feels genuine love from the club and its supporters. Though he acknowledged the uncertainty of the situation, saying only that he must be open to everything and that the future will reveal itself in time. Midfield is also a consideration. Arsenal have held long-standing interest in Sandro Tonali at Newcastle, a player of genuine world-class quality who had a difficult period but has since rediscovered his form. That interest could be revived this summer. However, there is a counter-argument. The emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly as a genuine midfield option may lead Arteta to deprioritise that position and focus resources entirely on the attack. And in the background, Arsenal continue to build for the long term. They are in discussions with the representatives of Jeremy Monga, the 16-year-old Leicester winger who, earlier this season, became the youngest goalscorer in Championship history. A compensation fee would need to be paid for the England under-19 international, but Arsenal view him as one of the most exciting young talents in the country. They have also already added Jayden Dixon from Stoke and Scottish striker Evan Mooney to strengthen the youth ranks. The pipeline is being built for years to come. So this is the picture of Arsenal entering the summer of 2026, champions of England, finalists in the Champions League, about to generate revenues approaching £800 million, about to hand their manager one of the richest contracts in football, about to enter the transfer market with intent, with resources, and with a very clear idea of what they need. The question is no longer whether Arsenal can compete at the top of European football. The question is how long they can stay there, and if Arteta gets the right players through the door this summer. If Kroupi or Alvarez or a forward of that calibre arrives at the Emirates, then the answer to that question could be a very long time indeed. 22 years of waiting is over. The new era is only just beginning. That is everything for today's video. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you subscribe to Arsenal Updates so you never miss a single breakdown, a transfer update, or a deep dive into the stories that matter most to this club. Drop a like if this helped you stay informed. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Who do you want Arsenal to sign this summer? And share this video with a fellow Gooner who needs to hear it. We'll see you in the next one.